Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community.
Early American cooking is the topic on Read About It tonight. Hi, I'm B.J. Williams. With me is Mary Gunderson to talk about her book, The Food Journal of the Lewis and Clark Expedition. Susie Beasley will talk with Phil Taubert. Kids Corner will feature Heidi Johnson. We also have Doug Benton and M.J. Vandevenner. Coming up, Mary Gunderson.
The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It, with your host, B.J. Williams.
Mary Gunderson is a nationally noted food writer and culinary historian. She's written a number of cookbooks, and the one she's going to talk with us about today is The Food Journal of Lewis and Clark, Recipes for an Expedition. And this features what, I hope I've got this right, paleocuisinology.
Right.
Which means you have to go back and reconstruct how people actually made some of the meals that they talk about?
Exactly. That's what I'm up to. The book is the experience of the Lewis and Clark expedition through the daily experience of food. And my idea is that if you can taste something, if you can taste something like what they ate on the expedition, it becomes a time machine to take you back to a moment in time in the early 1800s when we were a country in huge transition. The Louisiana Purchase had just happened, and Oklahoma is part of the Louisiana Purchase. Thomas Jefferson wanted to send Meriwether Lewis across the country, and my idea is that food can be your guidebook to take you on the expedition.
Well, you mentioned in your foreword here that food was talked about extensively in the journals that both Clark and Lewis kept while they were on the expedition. That seemed to be one of the major topics each day.
Yes, just as we're concerned about what we eat, they were concerned every day about what they were going to eat. And sometimes they had to eat things that maybe they didn't love, but they also talk about times when they were totally enraptured by what they ate. When Toussaint Charbonneau, Sacagawea's husband, made boudin blanc, the white pudding, the captains were very happy. When Lewis ate a duck that tasted like something he tasted when he was with Thomas Jefferson, he describes it with great pleasure. So the journal entries describe the highs and lows of the expedition. They describe the times when they had great abundance, when they were hunting the buffalo, and the times when they had virtually nothing to eat, when they were crossing the Bitterroot Mountains. So food is kind of it helps take the temperature of the trip across the country and back to St. Louis.
One of the things that intrigued me is one of your first recipes is portable soup.
Portable soup.
Portable soup. And I guess I always thought of food that you could prepare ahead and I guess keep in cans or jars was something that in a way came a little bit later, ruling out pemmican and dried meats. So I was a little bit surprised to find that in 1804 you could go down to the local grocery store, I suppose, and buy some portable soup to take on your journey across the country.
Well, they were very close to the producer, unlike us buying a bouillon cube. But portable soup is really the precursor of the bouillon cube. And armies used it, sailors used it. It was a way to have a flavor-packed item that could be packed in a small container. It was packed in waxed canvas to carry on the expedition. And it was a way to have something in reserve. It wasn't the daily rations. Lewis actually bought it in Philadelphia in 1803 with the idea that he would be able to use it if things got kind of slim. And in fact, when they write about eating the portable soup was when they were crossing the Bitterroot Mountains. They had virtually nothing else to eat. And at one point they killed a colt and they had that as the meat and they made portable soup. Now, Patrick Gass writes about the fact that some of the men didn't like portable soup. But we don't necessarily infer from that it tasted bad. It may have, although the fat is mostly skimmed out of it, just like a bouillon cube is mostly flavor. It's not so fat, so the rancidity wouldn't have been an issue. But just the fact that they were having broth That's what they had. Broth isn't very filling. So the men may have not been very happy about that because they were working really hard during the whole expedition, and food was really their fuel. So as we're reading about the food of the expedition, this is their gasoline. This was their kerosene.
Well, you commented that they ate an incredible amount of meat. I know Americans are supposed to be great meat consumers, but you were talking about several pounds of meat a day per man.
Yes, they did eat a lot of meat. Meat was the pinnacle of their food pyramid, and they preferred meat to anything else. They loved it when they were in buffalo country because they had unlimited amounts of meat. They also ate vegetables. They ate corn. They dug roots along the way. Sacagawea contributed to that. They ate a lot of berries. They picked berries from the earliest days, wild strawberries in May of 1804. Even plums in 1805. Clark talks about making a plum tart and how it was just delicious. So they liked meat. They ate a lot of it. At times they ate probably 4 to 5 pounds. Some people say more than that, and my research indicates probably it was 4 to 5, maybe 6 pounds maximum. But if you think about 5 or 6 T-bone steaks, sirloin steaks, 16-ounce sirloin steaks, that's still a lot of meat. The meat was also very lean, more lean than what we would think of as a premium cut of meat at this point in time. So yeah, they ate a lot of meat. Well,
they were also doing an awful lot more physical labor than today's American would even dream of contemplating.
They were burning thousands of calories. They were pulling the boats up the river. They were dragging huge packs around the Great Falls. They were working very hard. And again, food was the energy source that they had.
Now, obviously, they didn't write out recipes in the journals, so I have to ask, where did you find the recipes for this in this book?
Well, the recipes came from the quotes, the things that the men wrote about what they ate, and also the recipes of the time. The book is arranged chronologically. It starts with Lewis working with Jefferson at the President's house, and then on to Philadelphia, America's most sophisticated city in the early 1800s, and then onward down the Ohio and out the rest of the journey. So I studied the food of the time, cookbooks from the time, and things that were written about food from the time. And then I used the quotes, things that Jefferson wrote, our most culinary sensitive president. He wrote a lot about the garden and the table and fine wines. So I used that information to inspire the recipes. In some cases, it's specific dishes. For example, Jefferson loved peas, so I have a recipe for minted peas. They talk about their rations that they carried with them. So I have a recipe for everyday hominy and bacon because pork products and salt pork and lard were among their rations, as was hominy. So I used the recipe, buffalo stew, something they ate. They also ate buffalo bacon and beans, which suggests a future trend, which is the cowboy era. And my hosts here in Oklahoma City is the National Cowboy Museum. So there's a connection between our great American myth, the cowboy, and our also important American myth, Lewis and Clark.
Well, you also have in here, it's one of the little sidebars, how to cook a bear.
How to cook a bear.
So, in case anybody needs to know, you can find it in the book. But that, and I believe you also have the quote, it really didn't taste that good.
Well, in that particular case, it didn't, because the pitch from the fir tree, the pine tree, had baked into the bear meat. I don't have a recipe for a modern recipe for bear. The recipes that I use all use ingredients that are available now, but the ingredients are all plausible to things that they had available to them. I only chose ingredients that people can get at most grocery stores. And in cases where the food isn't available, many of the roots and many of the berries, for example, are only found in the wild, I use the vegetable or the fruit that they say it tasted something like a sweet potato. This buffalo berry was something like a plum. Therefore, we have plum tart made with our modern plums.
Well, I haven't had a chance to try any of the recipes, but a number of them look absolutely delicious.
I hope you try them, and I hope it takes you back to a moment in time where you can recreate the idea of the expedition for yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, BJ.
We've had with us today Mary Gunderson. She's been talking about her book, The Food Journal of Lewis and Clark. You can find this book at your library and your favorite bookstore. Coming up next, we have Susie Beasley. She'll be talking with Phil Taubert about a video we'll all enjoy.
Phil, kind of give us an idea of what the art of Mexico, ancient and modern traditions. What is this video about?
Well, this is a sort of an overview of the development of art as it relates to the culture of Mexico. It goes way back before Christ's time, and little artifacts and things that they have been able to find through excavations and things like that.
So it's kind of like an archaeological?
Yes, exactly.
Very heavy
exactly.
now. So what's included in the video?
It starts out with little figurines that were just sculpted out of rocks, little weapons and feathers and other kinds of little things that they may have made to sort of represent the life that they were living and how it was represented, could be represented in the form of art. And we have that to look back on now to kind of get an idea of what the culture was like and what they represented and how people lived during that time period.
And this is a 2-volume set, right?
Yes, one has the little artifacts and items that have been found, but the other one has to do with more of the actual painters, the artists who actually did the painting during the, and this goes up to the modern times as well, I should say. It's just kind of an overview of.
And so how long are each one of the videos?
Roughly 50 minutes each. Yeah.
And the targeted audience, who would be interested in checking out a video like this and viewing it?
Well, I think it would be of interest to anyone that's doing a study on Mexico and the development of Mexico. And you can see in these videos how the Aztec Indians and all the Mayans were part of that development, also the influences of Spanish and Chinese culture. And you could just kind of put all of that together in a presentation. This would be very helpful for that.
However, it is not licensed for public performance.
No, I'm afraid not.
So what other items could be used to kind of bring everything together with the video?
Well, I would think that materials on art, for one thing, but also videos that we might have on travel in Mexico would be interesting too, because you could kind of put things together and see how things might have fit better. Things go together.
And also to kind of get an idea if you wanted to travel there and if you wanted to perhaps go to some of these sites that you mentioned in there where they
various museums and things like that. You bet. Sure.
So it's a 2-volume set.
Yes.
It's 50 minutes each. And well, when did it come out? Is it a fairly recent video?
I believe the year was 2000.
2000.
So it's pretty new.
Okay then.
Yes.
So Phil, we really appreciate you coming and sharing with us the art of Mexico, ancient and modern traditions. Running time about 50 minutes each.
Right.
Not licensed for public performance, however, it still be available at your local library and local bookstore.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Yo, see that girl? She sets the curve in my math class. Always has her homework right. Me? I hate homework, but I gotta do it, you know? But I found out her secret. She logs on to the Metro Library website and then clicks on their homework center. I couldn't believe what they have there. Help for math, science, English, and lots of other stuff too, like encyclopedias, newspapers, magazines, even science experiments. Metro Library's Homework Center website is one-stop shopping. You can even find the phone number of the nearest library so you can renew your library books. Check it out. It's like having the resources of an entire bookstore right in your computer. And since it's from Metro Library, you know the information will be dependable and up to the minute. But hey, I gotta go and log on and get to work. From now on, I'm setting the curve.
With me once again is Doug Benton from the library system and also a writer for the Oklahoma Gazette. And Doug, I brought something entirely new and different for you to gaze at today.
Well, what would that be?
Well, it is the Illustrated Rumi. And I understand that he is the highest selling poet. His poetry sells the most here in this country. And it's been that way for a number of years, which is quite saying something for someone who was born in Afghanistan in 1207.
Yeah, I would say so.
He's doing rather well. I don't know if his family is getting the royalties from here.
I think you're being whimsical.
Yes,
you
I
are.
think I am being a little bit whimsical. This Illustrated Rumi is an absolutely gorgeous book. Because it combines some of Rumi's poetry, some of his parables. He was a Sufi mystic his father was a Sufi mystic, and he actually himself created a new part of Sufism. Don't ask me to get into the details because I don't know.
I was just about to.
Sufi is the, I guess you would say, the mystic side of Islam. There's a wonderful foreword in this book by Houston Smith, who actually explains it much better than I possibly could. But I think all of us have seen pictures of the whirling dervishes, and that's what the Sufis are. This is actually an attempt to get closer to God, to create that sort of spiritual awareness where you can get closer access to God, and that's really what the Sufis are about. And Rumi was an absolute master at it. But this book combines Persian miniatures, calligraphy, and so on to illustrate his stories and his parables, which, as I said, the best-selling poet around, and people just love what he has to say. It's a universal message, really, and an absolutely gorgeous book. You can appreciate it either in terms of what he has to say or simply the wonderful art from the Islamic world. And so I would highly recommend, make sure I've got it right, the Illustrated Rumi, A Treasury of Wisdom from the Poet of the Soul. This is a new translation, and really the foreword by Houston Smith, which places Sufism in Islam is worth looking at anyway. And now I'm getting a signal. Time's up.
Okay.
Thank you. Coming up next is Kids Corner. Kelly Ria will be talking with Heidi Johnson about books for our very youngest readers.
Hi, we're with Heidi Johnson today from Tech Processing at the Capitol Hill Library, and she's brought some fabulous children's books, as she is wont to do. Heidi, what's the first book you brought to talk about today?
The first one is just a fun book. It's called 5 Green and Speckled Frogs. And what first attracted me to this, besides obviously the title, was all the little silver speckles that are throughout the pictures. All the frogs have silver speckles, and just really attracted me, which made me read the rest of the book, and I thought it was just a hilarious book. It's basically counting, and it starts off with 5 green and speckled frogs sitting on a log, eating most delicious bugs, and they're all sitting there with their little snack bags and having little bugs in them, and they're just having a ball. And then one always jumps into the pool where it's nice and cool, and then four green and speckled frogs sit on a log and
so
eat
there's
most delicious
sequencing,
bugs.
there's bright colors to keep the children's attention,
Correct.
and repetition so that the kids can join in. They know what's going to happen, and that's
Right.
important when you're an adult reading to littles.
Get everybody involved in the story. And so that's just a fun book right there.
It is very fun. It's retold and illustrated by Priscilla Burris. And I'm glad you brought that. I know that this will be for littles, like even
Very
about
small
three, 4, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, very, very small. There are just a few words, and they're always in rhyme, and mostly just the pictures to look at.
Oh,
And let's face it, there's some very silly frogs, too.
Oh, goody. Everyone needs a silly frog in their life, don't they, now and then?
Yes, they do.
Now, you've got a little more serious book. It's called
A Bear Wants More. This is the story of a bear who had been hibernating over the winter and wakes up and is just ravenous. And you can tell he has really shrunk in girth. So he is searching for food. And all of his friends trying to help him out. They show him where there is a fish feast going on, and he will eat fish till he's sick of fish, and then one of his friends will take him to the strawberries in the woods, and he'll eat a lot of strawberries. Well, this goes on, and Bear just cannot get enough to eat, so his friends prepare a feast for him at the very end, which Bear loves to eat, except he eats so much, he leaves very little for his friends. And that's how the story ends, but his friends want more.
Oh, how sweet. Bear Wants More by Karma Wilson and Jane Chapman. And it's fun, it's pretty. Springtime is coming up. Your kids will love this. You can find 5 Green and Speckled Frogs and Bear Wants More at your local library or at your favorite bookstore. Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly and Heidi. It's time now for the New York Times bestseller list. We'll start out with hardback fiction. Number 10 on that list is Dating Game by Danielle Seal. The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold, The Reluctant Suitor by Kathleen Woodwis, The Jester by James Patterson with Andrew Gross, Dead Aim by Iris Johansson, The King of Torts by John Grisham, The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown, Lost Light by Michael Connolly, Cerulean Sins by Laurel Hamilton is number 2, and Nora Roberts' Birthright is number 1. On the nonfiction list, Useful Idiots by Mona Karen is 10, What Should I Do With My Life by Poe Bronson, The Hunt for Bin Laden by Robin Moore, The Devil in the White City by Eric Larson, Of Paradise and Power by Robert Kagan, Dereliction of Duty by Robert Patterson, Jarhead by Anthony Swofford, The Savage Nation by Michael Savage, Stupid White Men by Michael Moore is number 2, and Queen Noor's Leap of Faith is number 1. On the children's list, number 10 is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling, The Wide Window by Lemony Snicket, The Reptile Room by Lemony Snicket, The Angel's Command by Brian Jacques, Princess Lessons by Meg Cabot, Dancing in My Nutty Pants by Louise Renison, The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket, Lemony Snicket's The Carnivorous Carnival is number 2, and Meg Cabot's Princess in Waiting is number 1. And back once again is Dave Benton, only this time he's going to tell me about a book. And what you got there?
I remember I said recently that I was going to be looking at some of the classics of science fiction, and you don't get much more classic than this one, I think.
No, you sure don't.
Now, this one maybe even you have read.
Yes.
I'm guessing.
Long time ago.
Long time ago. Well, it was first published in 1953. So it is an old one. It's Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End. And this was one of the first science fiction stories I read about alien invasions, although it's not really an invasion in this book. They just kind of show up. And it's a theme that Clarke has used more than once in his work, the idea that aliens have come to Earth on several occasions in the course of man's history and helped us along a little bit.
We need all the help we can get.
Where are they when we need them? Yeah, I think we have the wrong kind of aliens in charge on Earth right now. But that was one of the themes of 2001 for people who have seen that film and remember that one. In Childhood's End, they come down to Earth, and they're called the Overlords. And in a matter of 50 years, they clean the place up, although no one has ever seen them. But they solve all the problems of overpopulation. They solve the problems of the food supply. They solve problems of crime. Everybody's getting along. Nobody needs anything. But we haven't ever seen them. The ambassadors from this race, whatever they are, they're always behind screens. And they can communicate with humans, but they don't want to be seen by humans. And the moment in the book, which is about, I guess, maybe a quarter of the way through the story, or a third of the way, when you actually see what these creatures look like. Of course, I was a kid when I read this, and it just about knocked me out of my chair. It was such a surprise to me. And I won't say, what the appearance is, but it's a familiar one, but a surprising one in context. And by the end of the book, they're moving us beyond humanity. As we are now, we are still children. And our childhood is over when we move on to something better.
This is what I class. It's not fantasy, but I put it in the fairy tale section of science fiction.
Oh, you think so? Yeah. You put it. Well, it isn't involved, as some of Clarke's books are, with hard science. It is more, it's more of a speculative fiction, I think is a term that a lot of people use now.
Yeah, and actually, and I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, because obviously he's dealing with a what if, which is classic science fiction in that way. But I thought he was always very, very good at getting to what could happen to us. What if?
Yeah, and the fairy tale maybe is not totally inaccurate when you consider what the creatures look like when they are
I was
appearance is revealed.
Actually, I was referring more to perfecting humanity as a fairy tale, but maybe we should try to go on to
something else beyond that. Yeah, I don't know if we are perfectible. Although, I think maybe in Clarke's view we are. He's a very optimistic science fiction writer in most of his stories. I mean, there are a few pessimistic ones, but for the most part, he's he gives us a thumbs up with a little help from our friends.
Great. Well, we have to move on. We'll get back to more Arthur C. Clarke and classic science fiction later. Thanks, Doug.
Okay.
Coming up next, we have MJ Vandeventer, Director of Publications at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. She is used to asking other people about books they read. I got a chance to ask her what she had read recently. I think you'll enjoy what she said. Okay, MJ, what have you brought for us tonight?
Well, it's Stephen King's book. It's called On Writing, a Memoir of the Craft. I never liked Stephen King. I never go to his movies. I've never read his horror books. It just doesn't appeal to me. But I discovered this book. It's been on the bestseller list, I believe. And it's all about writing, so I use it in my class, my feature writing class at UCO. But I discovered that Stephen King really has a rather great sense of humor. In the book, he also talks about his problems with cocaine. He had quite a bout with that and finally mastered that, just like he's mastered writing. But he has wonderful things to say about ideas and words and where you should write and that type of thing. I thought I would just share a few of them.
Okay.
Are you a Stephen King fan?
No, I'm like you. I don't do horror, but it sounds like this is a book that anybody would enjoy.
Well, and especially for people who like to write or people who love words. This is what he says about ideas. He says, let's get one thing clear right now, shall we? There is no idea dump, no story central, no island of the buried booksellers. Good story ideas seem to come quite literally from nowhere, sailing at you right out of the empty sky. Two previously unrelated ideas come together and make something new under the sun. Your job as a writer isn't to find these ideas, but to recognize them when they show up. And I think that's we think we have to go out there and really hunt for them. I think what he's really saying, if you're receptive, those ideas will just simply come to you.
Yeah, I like what he said about it's your job as a writer to recognize them.
Right.
So they're there, you just have to have that special eye.
And be aware.
And be aware. And then you have to be able to do something with it.
Well, yes, this is true. Here's another thing he says about writing. I'm not asking you to come reverently or unquestioningly. I'm not asking you to be politically correct or cast aside your sense of humor. Please, God, you have one. This isn't a popularity contest. It's not the moral Olympics, and it's not church, but it's writing, damn it. Excuse me. Not washing the car or putting on eyeliner. If you can take it seriously, we can do business. If you can't or won't, it's time for you to close the book and do something else, like wash the car maybe.
So it sounds like, although this is a book that's very serious about writing, it's not a textbook. You don't sit down and go do the exercises in chapter 1 and then the exercises in chapter 2.
Oh no, it's not a textbook, but I've found it just a really valuable resource to use in class because it gives students a sense of history about Stephen King, a sense of who he is as a writer and as a personality, but also lets us laugh once in a while and gives you just really good ideas.
Yeah. Well, if you can't laugh, why do you bother?
Right. And I just never realized that he had such a sense of humor, a little bit dry, but still a sense of humor. And you find that all the way throughout this book. I think that's one reason I enjoy it so much, because I do appreciate a good sense of humor.
Well, it sounds great. So anybody who wants to write, is writing, or enjoys reading good writing
would enjoy this book.
Would enjoy this book. Great. And it's Stephen King's On Writing.
On Writing, a Memoir of the Craft.
Okay. And it looks like it's in paperback.
It's in paperback and it's also in hardback.
Great. So people,
either way you want it.
You can find it at your library and your favorite bookstore.
Hi, I'm Donna Morris, Executive Director of your Metropolitan Library System. You know, experts tell us it's never too early to begin reading to a child. If you spend just 20 minutes a day reading to a child, you're not only building a bond that lasts a lifetime, but you're helping that child to prepare to learn how to read. Visit us at the Metropolitan Library System and let us help you select just the right books for you and your family. And be sure and visit our website at www.metrolibrary.org.
Find out about books, CDs, videos, and more by accessing our website at www.metrolibrary.org. You can find out everything you wanted to know. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again next time.